How can you even know that God exists? And that's a good question. Essentially, we're asking, what evidence is there for the existence of God? And I will attempt in 10 minutes to provide 6 pieces of information in a cumulative argument, that is an argument that accumulates as it develops, for God's existence. So here are 6 pieces of evidence that point to God's existence. First of all, the universe had a beginning. It's generally accepted now that the universe had a beginning. It suddenly began. From ancient times, including from Socrates till very recently, most scientists believe the universe was eternal, that it had no beginning. But wrestling with Einstein's theory of relativity, several mathematicians and scientists developed a theory that the universe must have expanded from a single explosive beginning. And then Edwin Hubble, the American astronomer, observed that the universe was actually still expanding, which confirmed the idea of a definite beginning, and the Big Bang theory was generally accepted. The problem was, if there was a bang which produced the material universe, that is, everything that is material, what or who caused that bang? Because whoever or whatever caused it must have been immaterial. Nothing cannot produce something. What could have caused the beginning of everything? Oxford professor John Lennox says, scientists were nervous of the Big Bang theory because it seemed to give credence to the idea of creation from nothing, as though the Bible might have been correct. Former atheist Anthony Flew wrote, if there had been no reason to think the universe had a beginning, there would be no need to postulate something else that produced the whole thing. But the Big Bang theory changed all that. If the universe had a beginning, it became entirely sensible, almost inevitable to ask, what produced this beginning? At the time, before he was a theist, when he was still an atheist, I admitted that believers could reasonably welcome the Big Bang cosmology as tending to confirm their prior belief that in the beginning the universe was created by God. So the universe had a definite beginning. Secondly, the universe is finely tuned. We live in a universe that's just right. The many laws and physical constants that provide the stability of the universe and that sustain life are very finely tuned. They're not random, but they're precise and they're predictable. If, for example, the force of gravity was even slightly adjusted, life wouldn't be possible. These physical constants exist in an interdependent matrix of complex harmony. The necessary characteristics that enable life on any planet are so infinitesimally precise that many astrophysicists and cosmologists find it difficult to believe it happened in an unguided or mindless way by chance. It just doesn't seem possible. The myriad of pre-existing patterns strongly suggests the existence of an intelligent mind. Physicist Freeman Dyson writes, the more I examine the universe and study the details of its architecture, the more evidence I find that the universe in some sense knew we were coming. So there was a beginning. The universe is very finely tuned. Thirdly, the laws of nature. Likewise, the laws of nature suggest thought or design by an intelligent mind. If you went to Camps Bay Beach and you saw 2 kind of scratches in the sand there, you could reasonably guess that that was just the result of the waves pulling back a stick or a stone or something and creating those meaningless scratches. But if you saw other kinds of scratches in the sand there, say a love heart which said Joe loves Lex inside it, you would immediately infer that someone with some intelligence had written that. I agree, it may come across as slightly miraculous, but nevertheless it's true. Joe loves Lex. And so meaning is attributed to the scratches. And because meaning can be attributed to the shapes and the scratches, you know that an intelligent mind has gone into the creation of those scratches and marks in the sand. Now, the whole business of science is based on the assumption of pre-existing laws or regular patterns. They're almost like languages which can be discovered. Einstein wrote, I'm not an atheist, and I don't think I can call myself a pantheist, that is someone who believes that everything that is God. We are, says Einstein, we are in the position of a little child entering a huge library filled with books in many languages. The child knows someone must have written those books. It doesn't know how. It doesn't understand the languages in which they are written. The child dimly suspects a mysterious order in the arrangement of the books, but doesn't know what it is. That, it seems to me, is the attitude of even the most intelligent human being toward God. We see the universe, he says, marvelously arranged and obeying certain laws, but only dimly understand these laws. Anthony Flew writes, if you accept the fact that there are laws, then something must impose that regularity on the universe. The laws of nature pose a problem for atheists because they are a voice of rationality heard through the mechanisms of matter. So, the laws of nature. Fourthly, the information in DNA. DNA is a molecule which contains atoms. Recent discoveries show that the DNA molecule contains a highly complex genetic language that governs the development of all living things. It governs what they grow into, and it governs how they grow into it. Before the cell, you have a molecule which is preloaded with all the necessary information to produce the living organism that it's going to become. Anthony Flew, again, writes, how can a universe of mindless matter produce beings with intrinsic ends, self-replicating capabilities, and coded chemistry? Living matter possesses an inherent goal or end-centered organization that is nowhere present in the matter that preceded it. It doesn't add up. You have to believe in an astonishing miracle of unguided, mindless chance to produce that incredible complexity, or the deliberate insertion of information by God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Nobel Prize-winning physiologist George Wald, earlier in his scientific career, had said, we choose to believe the impossible, that life arose spontaneously by chance. But later, after further study, he changed his view and he said, mind, rather than emerging as a late outgrowth in the evolution of life, has always existed as the matrix, the source, and the condition of physical reality. Flew agrees, adding the only satisfactory explanation for the origin of such end-directed, self-replicating life as we see on earth is an infinitely intelligent mind. Two more. Fifthly, the moral argument. Another piece of evidence in this cumulative argument is that all around the world, notwithstanding cultural differences, every tribe and people has a clear sense of right and wrong and in some way regulates that behavior. There's an idea of moral and legal judgment, judges, courts, rewards, punishment. C.S. Lewis advocates this idea in Mere Christianity and in other places. We have a conscience, an inbuilt sense of justice and injustice. And this gives weight to the idea presented in the Bible that we are made in God's image as moral beings, and that our conscience comes from a transcendent source, from God, rather than being built into us by only environmental influences. Sixthly and lastly, the experiences of believers throughout history and also today, and for many of us even in this room. If you ask a believer how they know God exists, they will probably mention their own authentic experiences of God as evidence. That is, experiences that they've had which appear to them as being thoroughly true and authentic in their case. Jesus said his followers would be called witnesses. And in a court of law, the testimony of a witness is admissible. In fact, it's very important. A witness can actually change the outcome of a case if their testimony is reliable. And so it is in this case as well. A Christian's testimony of an experience of God's love or God's provision or answers to prayer or radical lifestyle change or encountering God through the Bible is admissible in this discussion too. How do you know God exists? Well, a believer may say, I know him personally. In conclusion, we've said the following. We have a universe that had a beginning, which was caused by something or someone. We have a universe that's finely tuned. We have observable laws of nature. They're not random and chaotic. We have a sophisticated set of information preloaded into DNA. We've said that humanity has a powerful sense of morality, and individual believers have countless examples of God's activity in their lives. I would suggest to you that none of those pieces of evidence, those 6 pieces of evidence, taken on their own would necessarily be compelling. But grouped together as a cumulative argument, I believe they provide a rational foundation for the belief that God exists. And even I'd go further, that God is good.